At the turn of every century, stories of its beginnings, middles, and ends are documented and shared as the closest we can to understanding historical events. Discovering the aesthetic of these stories allows us to delve into the evolution of our systems, societies, cultures, and technologies. This in turn guides our foreseeable futures. In a 10-part series, we uncover the most powerful turning points that shaped African history to where we stand today. These are the African Journals.
Initially, I had no interest in communications or journalism per se. But because Obote was keen in Africanizing the media, he knew the role of the media, especially electronic media. He was looking around for somebody who was politically conscious and up and coming, and he picked on me. I was a very active youth winger of UPC. So I was encouraged to go for further training at Thompson's College, BBC, and then came back and given the responsibility of running television, which was very hectic, I must say, both politically and professionally. It was very difficult, but it was not really started from scratch per se. It was a package. We looked around, we advertised, and looked around for somebody who could put together a system within a short time. And we got an American called Harry Engels, who had a TV station in Guam, the Pacific, that he dismantled, put in a container, brought it to Uganda, and went on air within 3 months. So it was a breakneck speed, but technologically very poor at the time. And then two, in terms of facilities, because we wanted local programs, we had a studio. And guess what the studio was? It was previously part of the so-called European Nakasero Hospital. The hospital was closed and the operating theater became our studio. So we see, well, we had closed it, and where else could we go for a studio? So we didn't have, and the television, as you are aware, we didn't have the videos except the VTR, and like today, and it was cellular. We had to use the film, editing, the acids and whatnot. That made a big difference. And when I talk about edit, it's not even electronic editing. It's cellular. You have to put it down and cut it and join it with the cellotape. And then you remove the soundtrack and marry it later. Those are the details I can't go into right now. But those were the challenges at the time. Fortunately, also, we had a very enterprising Muzungu fellow called Bob Astels, who was previously in the Ministry of Works as a supervisor of roads construction. He jumped in and helped me in terms of film production and assembling of a library. And then also Harry Engel, the American who put it together, helped me a lot in terms of foreign programs. The equipment was very raw, very poor, because we had just bought used equipment. And to keep it going was not easy. Two, personnel. Training people from scratch. People, as you rightly put it, people had never seen TV before, except in the cinema theater. Was not easy. And three, finance. You know, it was under the Ministry of Information, and people had been used to Radio Uganda. You know, radio is not as expensive as TV. So they wanted to give TV the kind of budget they gave to radio, and that's difficult. And then worse still, to compound it, they wanted Africanization or Ugandanization of the programs. And to produce a program, it's not easy, it's not cheap. And people would be comparing it with what they see, like the foreign one, I Love Lucy, that type of situation. So we started off with the local production on actually singing. We would bring in a choir and they would sing on Sundays. And then politically, we would spend virtually all the time on public affairs, chasing the president and ministers to give us news programs. And then last but not least, discussion programs on TV, or in the studio. That had its own challenges.
In the early 1960s, as the world experimentally got exposed to visual electronic media, Uganda witnessed the birth of television broadcast media, a milestone that would rapidly change the entire media business model 50 years down the road. The first terrestrial television broadcast signals in Africa occurred on Saturday, October 31st, 1959, and belonged to the Western Nigeria television service, WNTS. This was a critical milestone in television history, and today, Africa boasts of over 600 television stations, excluding repeater stations. Television remains one of the most important medium worldwide for disseminating information and providing entertainment. It has over time become one of the greatest gifts of electronics engineering to mankind.